Look at all the air that's getting into that line. And it's not coming from the fuel tank, it's not coming from the fuel line, it's coming from the damn carburetor. Okay. I guess I better do a thaw video. I haven't done a shop video in a while. And part of the reason why is it's kind of a psychological analysis, which may or may not be interesting to anybody. But that thing right here, this little piece of crap, that's a Husqvarna 240. And it's based on the pull-in design. I've spent hours on that thing to try to get it to idle. I can't get it to idle. You know, and I find it interesting because the psychology goes like this. I'm not a business, but I'm a very busy guy. I've got the farm to deal with. I do have obligations. You know, I've got people whose saws I have, and I've made a promise to try to do what I can, this being one. And I do some work for a couple of shops, you know, when I have time. But I'm not a place where, you know, you can go and find a storefront and drop us off and expect me to prioritize it like a normal business would. And being a hobby versus a business, there's both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that you usually get a chance to choose what it is you want to work on. The curse is it's hard to say no to a friend. And I'm afraid there's nothing I can do to make it run to a spec that I would feel comfortable putting my name on it. So there it sits. And that coupled with the fact that trying to do a building and basically terraforming a part of the farm to put the farming operations across the road, combined with the fact that I wanted to have a social life at some level with my friends, want to fish and do some boating, been upstate. This thing here, I look at the bench, I see that, and I go, crap, I don't like doing that, so it sits another day. Now, I'm not making excuses. That's not the right way to run a show. And if I was working in a shop like Bob's, the first thing you do is you take that saw and just run it as far as you can. If you can't, you put it on the side and tell the customer, you know something, it can't be fixed. Well, I'm pretty sure it can be fixed. I just haven't found the magic on what it requires to make it run to a spec that I'm comfortable with. I mean, I get it to run. I get to fire up and idle, but if you blip the throttle, it kind of gets burbly on you, and then it goes lean. Then you make it rich to where it runs good there, but then when you try to blip the throttle, it damn near stalls out. Now, I've been told, and I don't know, that they have accelerator pumps. And there was a fellow who gave me this long, in-depth letter about how the best thing to do with these junk carburetors is to find a way to plug the hole for that accelerator jet and make it run like a normal carburetor. I don't know, and I don't have time to mess with it. So I will put together a video on how to assemble and disassemble, but I cannot tell you how to make it run well. Okay? That's where I'm at with this. And it has put a damper on my desire to work on any freaking thing. So once I get this to where I'm happy with it and I give it back to who gave it to me, I will never, ever work on one of those again. Because for the price of a saw like this, you might as well just pitch it instead of spending $100, $150 to have a guy try to debug something that's really not something you can debug. Oh, by the way, it's made in Sweden. So all you people who give me this crap about made in China and how I should somehow be offended that a saw comes to my place that's made in China, the one that has created me the most amount of hassle was made in Sweden with the brand that I happen to like to work on the most. So see, it all depends on the saw. This saw, on the other hand, has continued to impress. It's the Makita EA4300F. Now, I don't know what all those numbers mean, but I'm assuming it's 43 cc's or thereabouts. It starts, it runs, it idles, it goes, it stops, it restarts. It does everything that it's supposed to do and has given me no hassles and no need or desire to tear it apart, fix it, or do anything. I just run it. And you can tell it's still a little bit dirty. That saw is a win. I don't know the price point. You know, it's somewhere around $300, $350, I'm guessing, in that range. But for a homeowner saw, if you have to have gas, that's an absolute win because everything works. and it starts and restarts easily. Now, of course, I'm not going to get into the whole battery thing because the 120i Husqvarna is really my favorite homeowner base saw because it can sit and sit and sit. You don't have to worry about bad gas and chokes and whether it's cold or hot, how it's going to change the mixture, because it doesn't burn petrol or gasoline, it just runs off a battery. This one, as gas saws go, at the lower end of the price point and the lower end of the displacement range, that's a very good saw, and it has done nothing to change my mind from the first impression on that video a month or two ago. And to the fellows over the cutting edge, I would never be afraid of selling something like that to a person because they're going to be happy, you know. Whereas at 240, that's a crapshoot. But in order to kickstart the saw work, I need to work on something I want to work on. And that's number one. Now I understand this is a rant, and I understand my attitude sucks. You know that? There's no question that this attitude is completely unacceptable for any kind of a business. And to that I say, well, I guess fortunately I'm not a business. Now, this saw is that little JonCutter G2500, and I've actually used it quite a bit. It has a couple little quirks about it that make it a little bit annoying. One of which is the way the bar is held to keep from rotating is not really robust enough for the kind of work I do. So I always have to keep the chain kind of loose, because when I go to cut on the top, I push that bar down, and that bar pivots around this point. So there's a fair amount of change in distance from the tip of the bar to the center line of the sprocket. So when the bar is pushed all the way up, it's loose. When it's pushed all the way down, loose. When it's in the middle somewhere, it's fairly tight. But I've worked with it, and I like it. And as Bob had said, it's probably something that most people aren't going to deal with. But to me, this is a saw for $100. And like the Makita, it has done what I've asked it to do, and it idles and it starts. So I like the saw. And that's one of the reasons why I'm working on it today. So go ahead, you can flame away about my bad attitude. But it's saws like that 240 that give me a bad attitude. Now see this right here, see how much swing there is in that bar? That's why it's a little hard for me to keep this one adjusted properly. So I need to come up with a scheme to do a better job of stabilizing that bar. That's just too much slop. So I don't know if I shim it or find some different screws, but I'll come up with something. And that is the mission for today, as well as a general review of this little saw. For $100, I've been able to work around that issue. This damn thing is worth every penny for me on the farm. Every penny. And what it is I've learned to work around its limitation. I would ask the folks at Farmer Tech, if you're listening to this, please listen and come up with a workaround for it, or a fix that it can be retrofitted to these other saws. Because other than that little goofy detail, this thing here has started. Every time I've asked it to start, in the wintertime or in the summertime, I've got a lot of work done with this saw. So there's these two screws right there, see them? Those two screws that hold that, that's what basically is holding that bar. And they're not big enough in diameter. So I'm going to bring this over and blow some of the dirt off it, and I'll be right back. Well, what I'm doing is I'm taking screws for Husqvarna handles. I've cut them down, and I put some flats on the sides so that they're a tighter fit in here. Like that, right? It just slip fit in there. That's what I'm doing. Then I got to open up these little plastic holes a little bit so I can jam them in there to make sure the flats line up to the bar. And I think I have a solution to this problem, which has been tasking me a little bit. So I've got one more to go. Alright, I'm going to continue on with my modified JonCutter G2500. And what I did was, on the bench grinder, I just took a little bit off the top so that it's roughly the thickness of the bar, no more. And I've got the flats so that just about sticks into the groove. See that? So see if I got enough left that I can turn that in there. Okay. Put the chain on it. You know, I gotta tell you, other than this little modification, I honestly don't think you have to do anything to these saws. Just buy them and run them. I think it's probably worth trying to get these to run as well as some of the $500 options out there. You know, just for fun. I don't know if you can, but it's a simple little saw. Yeah, things line up a lot better now. Can't forget that screw right there. Pretty important to get that one. No, just get it firm. Don't go crazy with it. Yeah, look at that. That's a lot tighter. So I had to make sure that those modified handle screws for Husqvarna's were no taller than the width of the bar. Alright, I'm going to leave it just like that. Okay, there's no wiggle there anymore, and it won't rotate up and down to change the tension on the chain. So maybe I'll put a little more time into this stupid thing. They have a new offering, the 130, which is a Chinese built saw. And Bob was saying it's their $200 option, $175 on sale option. And this is my chosen $100 saw. I like it. This fix right here, by the way, is huge for me. Because the issue I have is I do a lot of upcuts with it. If I went and adjusted my chain with the bar all the way up like this, and then I would do an upcut, it would take that bar and it would rotate it down, making the distance between the center line and the sprocket slightly longer than it was where I adjusted when it had that slight triangle. Tighten that chain up and I couldn't figure out what's going on. And you probably saw that in a bunch of videos and didn't know what was going on, but that's what it is, just geometry. So this modification solves that problem. And this saw has now become even more important in my arsenal of saws. You can spend a lot more money and not end up with a saw that is as easy to operate as this one right here. So yeah, I'm endorsing it. Definitely endorsing this saw. And I'm definitely not endorsing these. And the other saw that I started the video with, I like it. I really do. And what you're going to see in the videos, where I'm not like trying to focus on one saw or another, is you're going to see this one an awful lot. You're going to see this one an awful lot. and you're going to see the battery-powered Husqvarna pole saw or the Oregon battery-powered pole saws. Both of them do a good job. The Oregon's proven to have, I think, a slightly better battery and charger arrangement, just because I've had more life out of the battery in terms of how much work I get per charge, and it charges pretty quickly as well. I like that arrangement. The Husqvarna is quite a bit more expensive for the same amount of amp hours, and yeah, I mean, the plastic on the saw might be a little bit better here and there, but that goofy little Oregon, both the pole saw and the hedge trimmer, they've been banged around quite a bit, and they still do a pretty good job. I think we're going to do a review on those as well. But what do you say about a saw like that? It just works, okay? Yeah, see, I just have to get that inner race off of there. Sometimes that's easier said than done. The outer race is already out. Well, I tapped the rod over. I mean, I could probably get both bearings out if I wanted to. And the idea is I wanted to expose the inner race of the dead bearing. Then maybe I can just use a puller on it versus actually having to burn it off with a torch. You know, sometimes you get lucky like that. Seeing as that bar moved, and I measured the distance of the protrusion for, it was 1130, so I get it back to where it was. Let me flip it around. So maybe I can bite on that. Right there. There's one. Here we go. There we go.
it's starting to wobble a little. Yeah, so I think probably we need to make sure that, you know, at least have them on hand, so if we lose the bearings, we've got that